What's going on, everyone? Another week of Power Rankings with me, DLE Rye, and with Kamel, DLE Kamel. Kamel, how are you? What's going on? What's new?
I'm chilling, man. Enjoying this next week in Arc 5. Really seeing how the meta develops, what becomes the best deck.
Yeah, this meta's been actually changing. You know, I thought it would just be like another boring, stale meta. None of the Arc 5 decks are going to do anything, but that is incorrect because you've got the overall standings on your screen right now, chat, and you can see that Melodious and some other decks, but from Arc 5 specifically, Melodious is kind of like the big topic to talk about today.
Yeah. And that is what's really important. New decks doing well because of the new support. That's what we want to hear.
There you go. So today we'll be going over all of the Battle Phase series, the big ones being being the GG Tour and the Battle Step, both $500 and $100 tournament. We also had the Meta Freakly and Weekly series, big one being Meta Weekly, and the Ruby League. As always, the points are right above me. You can see for all the finishes: first place 6, second place 4, third, fourth 2, and fifth to eighth is 1 singular point. Going through the decks, Kamel, first one up, Harpy Lady. Is there too much to say? 50 points, not by far the strongest, Lady, but it's there.
I believe that Harpy Lady is, by a reasonable margin, still the most powerful deck in Duel Links. And that's just because of how little it really lost from the last meta. It only lost access to semi-limited cards like Treacherous Trap Hole.
Meanwhile, we're watching Trap's deck. He's got 1 TTH, 1 Elegant Egotist. Oh, no, dude.
Yeah, it still made extreme use of the other strengths that Harpies have, like the 30-card deck and their insane draw power from just having 1 trap combo up. And the 20-card deck extreme consistency with being able to draw multiple monsters and Swallow's Nest and still be able to bring out your boss monster past your opponent's interruption. It's one of the only decks in Duel Links now after the ban list that can do that. Some of the other decks that we saw, Thunder Dragons and Automats, that were on the level of Harpies and Resonators, they all got significantly reduced. They had those key components ripped out of their decks. Harpies still have it, surviving with just a semi-limit nerf. So
yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit everything on the head. The only thing to really talk about Harpies is, even though they're still like looking at the points, they're still, a good margin better than everyone. The only thing you can really point at is there's only 1 tournament victory, like first place, a couple second places, but a lot of top 8. So definitely right now the power rankings are being influenced by popularity rather than strength when it comes to Harpies. So that number will definitely shrink, but I was
just going to say, you can definitely see that in the overall representation of Harpies.
Yeah.
There were 274 Harpy decks played this week, as opposed to the runner-up, which was the Water deck at 131.
Yeah.
Whenever we see those numbers, those are Dark Lord, Shiranui, Automat, Blue Eyes numbers. More than double the second place. Harpies is definitely, seeing those best deck numbers right now.
Yeah,
the other decks, they're just not as safe as Harpies.
I do feel like as we move forward, we'll probably see it slowly decay as people try the other decks. But as of right now, I think a lot of these points come from raw representation. They're still doing well, don't get me wrong, but only 1 tournament victory, a couple second places, and an overwhelming amount of top 8s. That's where they're just farming numbers like crazy.
Exactly.
For the power rankings. Speaking of farming, though, at 33, second place, the Water deck with 1, 2, 3, 4 tournament victories. What is going on? Water
4
best deck?
Tournament victories is not too much of a surprise. The Water deck is well known for being very oppressive at the start of new metas. And I believe the reason why it is lacking such popularity is because the Water deck has not been viable in about, I would say, 6 or 7 months. Ever since decks like Harpies and Resonators came on the scene, these decks just totally power crept Water Xyz in its entirety. But, coming back with the Water deck has now incorporated more ways to Xyz summon, main decking cards like Buzzsaw Shark and Fish Depth Charge so that you constantly have access to water monsters to Xyz summon, and you are not as inhibited by the limitation of your skill, Territory of the Sharks only being able to make rank 4s twice per duel. I think a lot of people have realized that is something that this deck needs to survive against the likes of Harpies and Thunder Dragons and some of the other decks that have started to do very well. So
yeah, hey, it's
I think
actually
this is really good. Probably the best that they've been in a while.
if you look at the deck list that won, there is in the main and side deck. There are 2 cards that are rare or below. Everything else was UR, SR. This deck is super expensive.
Yes, it's no joke. If you're playing the water deck, you have to realize your deck is extremely skill reliant. And if you don't want it to be skill reliant, then you need to have the cards to make it so that you don't just auto lose when you cannot activate your skill.
Pretty much.
So this deck has no room for error, no room for, I feel like replacements. I feel like you got to have best in slot everything for the water deck. You really have to account for every situation, when you're playing this deck, because other decks can come back so easily. You don't have a way to inherently limit your opponent from making plays besides your Abyss Dweller pops on their turn and maybe a Necro Valley if you open it. So you do still have to be very careful, but the water deck is putting in work with easily accessible effects.
Whenever I think of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like just a normal Yu-Gi-Oh deck that's like the water deck, right? It's got monsters, it's got back row, they work in conjunction with each other. Not too much, there's no like archetype, inner archetype workings, there's just monster spells, And yeah, powerful ability. I'm happy to see that it's still here and relevant past the first week. We'll see if that continues to be a thing. Or if they'll fall off. Third place, we actually have a tie for third, fourth between Magnets and Melodious. Magnets did win 2 tournaments, while Melodious only won 1. Magnets, I've actually been seeing a lot of Magnets.
Magnets are a super good deck right now. A lot of the other decks have lost access to a lot of their aggressive potential, being able to limit Magnets. Most Magnet players, they play that fat deck where they're just spamming resources, preventing you from dealing damage to them, preventing you from winning the duel every single turn. Most Magnet decks have incorporated Kiteroid now.
Oh my God.
So that they can totally just focus on summoning monsters, getting them back from the grave, taking hits when they need it, so that they can leave their field empty for that big Berserkion play that is very hard to come back from for certain decks when Magnets have a Soul Berserkion on the field and all of its effects are active. Its recovery effect as well to bring back the Magnets. You'll be surprised how many decks are not prepared to deal with that play. And it's all because none of the decks that are out in the meta right now are really pressuring the Magnet deck so that they feel like they have to make tight, unoptimal plays. Summoning Berserkion with other monsters on the field, summoning Magnets for mirror protection and not getting value off of their searches. None of that's happening right now, so Magnets are operating at full potential. And this is what it looks like, able to take wins off of the best decks like Harpy, the water deck, Melodious. Magnets is a top contender for a tier list spot.
Yeah, and you can see they put Forbidden Chalice in there specifically for the Melodious matchup, but they can also make Gorgonic Champion, or Gorgonic Guardian rather, which can negate and destroy monster effects. So it's a pretty cool deck. The question is, will this remain, or did they have a really good opening week? We'll have to just see more out of Magnets. How one good week doesn't necessarily make you meta, but I've been seeing them even in the battle step we just had, we still see them all over the place.
I would say Magnets definitely have a case to stick around. During the first week of Arc 5, they proved themselves to be very powerful. However, now we're starting to see more optimized decks for people that are they're seeing what's good in the meta. So if Magnets can make those same optimizations, they've got some pretty cracked players behind them. Gym Leader Brawl just won his 4th battle phase with Battle Phase.
That's kind of crazy, dude.
Once people like him figure out what they need to win 100% of the time against Harpies and Water Deck, it is over. I truly believe Magnets have the potential to be top tier.
Magnets best deck, let's go. 4th place, here it is, the big news of the week, Melodious. Right. Oh my lordy. Look at this deck list, 30 card thick Melodious winning the Meta Freakly Friday. Woo-wee.
Yeah, Melodious is definitely an anomaly, right? A new world deck that is popping off and has some tier list potential. And that's solely because of how well the monsters and the skill synergize. Quick rundown, if you don't know how Melodious work, they have 2 types. They have Divas and Maestras, and the skill from Songstress to Maestra lets you turn a Melodious into a Melodious Maestra, from your field or hand and it lets you summon them from your deck.
Yeah.
So you get to instantly turn from any of your Melodious divas into Mozartsa, the Maestro, with special summons from your hand, or Shofina, which gets materials back from your graveyard. And the reason this is so good is it helps you recycle your fusion materials, always have access to them on the field so that you can use your Soprana, which in itself is a fusion spell, lets you fusion summon, and Ostinato, so you can keep on bringing out those Melodious Maestras to keep your field safe. All of the Melodious Maestras, the extra deck ones anyway, have crazy good effects in this meta specifically. Yeah. Even the old one that was a part of the Masters of Shadow box, Schuberta, with its graveyard banishing effect, now it's really good against certain decks, especially against Thunder Dragons and stuff like Thunder Dragons, Noble Knights, Resonators.
Even Harpies because of the chain block, right? Harpies. So people don't know you can chain block if you have like a response with a monster effect before because your opponent has to pass priority for you to respond to their spell and traps before the Harpy slash can activate. She can just come in and say, you know what? Actually, I am going to do something to stop the slash Harpy. From activating. And then their TTH, you guys see a lot of traps in TTH. They can banish their own traps to activate TTH numerous times in a duel.
Exactly.
And then the Bloom Diva just straight up says, I can't be destroyed by battle or card effects.
Bloom Diva just says nope, and that's a really big thing for a new deck to have.
Yep.
Like, we haven't seen something with this amount of protection since Cositus, for real. And Bloom Diva is forcing other decks to play around its side against it because Melodious will beat you if you did not have a ready Bloom Diva out. And also, from Melodious, they have a pretty insane hand trap. No other deck has this at the moment, but they have a hand trap that reduces your opponent's attack and defense to 0, which is absolutely insane. It adds a whole another level of plays that you have to account for when you're playing Melodious.
And they can recover it too, so...
Yes, they can recover, and it opens up for them to be, they have a lot less situations in which they don't need to have full back row, full board of fusion monsters. They can just sit on the hand trap and wait until next turn to make their plays.
For sure. And then, of course, you would think Bloom Diva should be an easy card to, play around, just Forbidden Chalice and you're good, right? But they started introducing Skill Prisoner as well, which basically gives them 2 turns of targeting protection. And they've been doing very well. Of course, only 4th place now because people are still, again, just learning the 30-card version, which seems to kind of be the superior version. As of right now, just only recently was, discovered, if you will. I would not be surprised if this deck moved up 2nd, maybe even taking 1st place if they have a really, really good lucky streak. They do have to get some more actual tournament wins under their belts. But it's looking good for them.
Definitely. I think the only thing stopping this deck from really reaching the Harpy numbers is that right now the deck is unoptimized. People are still figuring out the best way to play, even though it has gotten results.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, look at this 30-card deck list, right? You have to account for a lot in this deck. Back removal, monster negation, fusion when you don't have materials in your hand, skill prisoner negating effects. You do have to account for a lot. So people who don't have all those cards, I don't think they're going to be able to perform at the same level as someone like Raw, who won the meta freakly. Melodious is a good monster core. They have amazing monsters and amazing monster effects, but you do also need a cracked spell and trap lineup to go along with them for them to be top tier. So
excited to see what they do. Hopefully they can do better next week. Last up, we've got Yo Sin Ju winning the Battle Step Grucius. Oh my lordy, that Battle Step, there was 2 or 3 Yo Sin Jus in the top cut.
As much as I would like to tell you the new support
don't do it. Don't do it.
Good, I cannot say that. I cannot say
the
new support has made Yosenju's good. To me, it's unfortunate, but Yosenju's, the old build, rather unchanged, has seen a lot of success recently. Still running D-Draw, the 3 comma 1s, and not much different from the regular list. Many hand traps and back row removal. What can I say? The deck works, man. You take hits, you remove back row, you bounce their monsters when you can, you attack directly, and if you're in a pinch, you go for Utopia Ray. The deck works. I have seen some people using the same Yosenju build, but with a new skill, blowing up Yosen,
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty insane.
Yeah, it hasn't popped up all the times, but blowing up Yosen is essentially a 550 attack point boost when you got Yosen training grounds on the field, but it lets you search Yosenju monsters as well. So
yeah, putting the tokens on and stuff. I mean, yeah, we're just entering this meta where non-destructive removal is super important. Melodious being like a key contender for that, but also just Harpies do it naturally, right? They got the non-targeting, or they have the targeting non-destruction removal, and Yosenjus are like the king of that, right? The combo one can do it every turn, multiple times. You have multiple combo ones. Yosenju Sword Sting is just absolutely cracked as a card. You know, there, and then just the hand traps that are, I mean, the 5 hand traps, but 2 Kiteroids, 3 Battling Boxer Veil. Not a lot of decks are able to play through that, you know. The decks that we saw had a lot of success in that Battle Step tournament were decks that were, you know, like Noble Knights got to the finals and stuff, but, you know, they were doing that because King Custodon was able to, you know, bounce stuff out just like Yosenju did, so... I'm excited to see where Yosenju goes. I think they actually might end up being a tiered deck just as like an anti-meta strategy. At the very least, like a really high rogue. So I'm excited to see where they go, but definitely not past like a tier 3, I don't think.
Yeah, the deck just doesn't have enough elements to it right now, I think, to classify it as tier 3. You know, a lot of the other decks, they have, you know, total control over the battle phase or something like that. Or they just really excel in one place. Yosenjus offer a little bit of everything, but when their effects themselves are not active, you really find yourself relying on like 1 or 2 cards for your survival, either the Sword Sting or one of your hand traps. So I think once they overcome that weakness, they will be able to really become top tier. Hopefully they put some pendulums in there, man. Hopefully, man.
Every time Yosenju's the top cut, they're like, is that pendulum Yosenju? And I'm like, why are you even asking that, man? You already know the answers now. Oh, no. It's so sad. Oh, man. But that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, you can see the overall representation here. You can see... all the conversion rates. Cyber Dragon had actually, there was one guy that played Cyber Dragon and topped both times, and both times lost in top 32. Funny that he made it there, but hey, it is what it is. There's not too much else to talk about. Resonators were unable to do anything after that one tournament victory. I think they're, I don't know. We'll have to see what the...
Noble Knights did show up this week.
They did. Yeah.
Showed up quite a big game, second in Battle Phase Thursday, losing to Magnets, though.
Yeah.
They were undefeated in the tournament before losing.
Yeah, I think it's one guy, and it's like his curse. He's like God-handing through the whole tournament, and then finals back-to-back brick, and it's like, yeah, that sounds like Noble Knights. Thunder Dragon's another deck a lot of people were expecting to be good, but it's kind of not, right? Thunder Dragons are kind of being straight dookie. I don't know. They're not doing too much, man.
Their consistency was heavily hit with Luflu Pine going to well-deserved, though, because frankly, they were abusing that card. Far too powerful to be played regularly in the Thunder Dragon deck. So hopefully they find some other, you know, supporting engines to help them out. But honestly, good riddance. I hope the deck finds another clutch to lean on.
There you go, and I think that's a good stopping point. Before the comments get too angry, I agree with Capella. Thunder Dragons, they don't belong. That's gonna be it from me. Any other closing thoughts? I like this. I actually kind of like this meta that we're in. You know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, Harpies everywhere." Yeah, but like other decks are winning. It's not just Harpies.
I like it too, but Harpies have to go.
Yeah.
That's something that I am fully behind right now. Harpies are really the gatekeeper to the meta, and when you have a deck as, you know, awkwardly as powerful as Harpies are, like, I feel like the Harpy deck sucks. But none of the other decks,
every deck sucks.
Really are putting out enough power right now to overcome how well they're doing. So hopefully the Harpy deck gets out of here soon enough, bro. The nerf,
or we just power creep it, you know. DDDs soon,
hopefully.
Yeah.
It's a mini box. I don't know.
All right, boys, that's gonna be it from us. Thank you so much for watching. Watch the other videos that come out this week. We love you. Till next time.
Peace.